It's my pleasure to present at the Hack in the Box lockdown. And one thing I regret is that I'm online because of the coronavirus. Presenters are Byeongjae Kim and Taewoo. The analysts are Dong Kim, Sojun Yoo, and the team manager is Jae Lee. We are from South Korea, and we work for the Korea Internet and Security Agency, or KISA for short. The presentation I'm sharing with you today deals with supply chain attacks. In early 2019, an attack tampered with the ASUS live update file to widely distribute malware. We are continuously analyzing and tracking similar cases. We were able to confirm several features and two major strategies after analyzing the attacked systems and malware of similar nature. We also prepared countermeasures that can be taken against such supply chain attacks. These are the topics of my presentation for this time. How dangerous are supply chain attacks? How are these supply chain attacks carried out? We will present 5 cases that we have analyzed. We have found associations and similarities in these 5 cases and presume that they are from the same attack group. I will describe the features and strategies of the attacks by the group. Lastly, I will present what security officials against supply chain attacks. This section reviews the supply chain attack against ASUS last year to show you how risky a supply chain attack can be. I'm sure everyone here has heard about supply chain attacks. Nevertheless, I will begin with a brief description of it. As per Wikipedia, a supply chain attack is a cyber attack that seeks to damage an organization by targeting less secure elements in the supply network. There are various methods of the supply chain attack. The most typical method penetrates a software developing company to tamper with a program or inject malware, and widely distributes the tampered software to customers. This slide shows the complete scenario of the hacking accident of the ASUS live update server. We don't know how the attack penetrated ASUS since we didn't have the chance to analyze the ASUS update server. However, we were able to understand the scenario by analyzing the malware provided by Kaspersky. An attack penetrated an ASUS update server and altered the normal update program with the malicious update program generated by the attacker. It then infected more than 1 million computers through the automatic update service. The attacker collected the MAC address of the attack target and inserted the tampered program before distributing malware. Then the attacker installed the final payload only in the MAC address list for PCs. Then the malware reads and checks the MAC address of the infected system to select the attack targets. It installs the payload. If the MAC address matches that of the attack target, each sample had a different MAC address list, and we confirmed about 200 unique MAC addresses. However, there were about 600 PCs and servers known to be infected. We wanted to check each one of 600 PCs or servers, but could not. The attacker of tampered update files. Type A alters the win main and runs the shellcode. We presume that the malware developer produced the winmain. When the altered winmain function runs, it loads the shellcode in the memory and runs. Type A is a simple code that terminates after only executing the malicious behavior in the winmain function. Type B does not alter the normal main function, but alters the C runtime code. When the tempered runtime function runs, it allocates memory, decrypts the shellcode in the resource area, and loads it in the memory. The algorithm that decrypts the shellcode is the same as the algorithm used in the PlugX malware. I will talk about PlugX later. The attacker mostly distributed Type B malware. It is because the malware analyzers do not analyze C runtime code thoroughly, and it is antivirus. I heard that Kaspersky applied the code scanning technology to detect the supply chain attack. It used the code scanning technology to detect the anomaly in the ASUS live update file in January 2019 and analyzed it. It named the attack Operation ShadowHammer and announced a press release. Kaspersky reported that its solution detected about 57,000 infected PCs. It also disclosed its statistical calculation showed more than 1 million PCs were probably infected worldwide. The attack could bypass the detection and infect so many PCs in such a short period because it was a supply chain attack. Of course, some attacks like WannaCry can distribute malware widely through network transmission. Next presenter is Taewoo, and he will discuss about case studies of supply chain attack. I will come back after his presentation.
Hello everyone, my name is Taewoo. I will review the supply chain attacks that he analyzes as they occurred in South Korea, and I will share 5 cases. Most of them have not been disclosed overseas. We have continuously analyzed supply chain attacks since before the supply chain attack against ASUS. This slide shows the timeline of intrusion incident in 5 Korean companies that is suspected are the victims of supply chain attacks by the same group. Please understand that we can't disclose the company names. We found it for the first time in 2011 and confirmed it attacked Korea companies continuously. This slide shows the incident A, which occurred in Korea in 2011. The attacker hacked an update server to install the malware in the internet PCs and leaked personal information. The attacker uploaded the malware to the distribution server before hacking the update server and set it, so that when the IP of company A logged on, it redirected to the malware distribution server. Company A logged onto the update server to update its software and was impacted by the malware. As a result, a total of 62 PCs were impacted and the attacker hijacked personal information of 35 million people. This figure shows the malware information camouflaged as a normal file. The malware downloaded from the update server was a malware called PlugX. It hijacked a certificate and signed it up to avoid detection by the security system. The malware loads the encrypted data in a specific area of the file into the memory. It then decrypts the loaded data and retrieves the CNC server address. It checks the string of the parse the data for decryption and decrypts them. It also checks the checksum value to check if the decryption was successful. The logic is a feature of PlugX, and it is why we confirmed it was a PlugX module. The malware receives the command from the CNC server, then it performs the malicious behavior such as system service control, file execution, and DB control according to the receiver's command. The command included the database access to hijack personal information of members, and the malware hijacked a total of 35 million datasets as a result. This slide shows Test B. Kaspersky confirmed that Company B connected to an illicit domain during software use. The attacked company was notified of the attack and reported it to us for analysis. It has the following attack procedure. The attack hijacks the remote control account of the build server of Company B and logs into the build server. After logging into the server to attack, alter the normal file using the malware camouflaged as a normal linker program. The tempered file is updated server through NAS. A user is infected by malware when the user requests an update and information is leaked to the server. The first impacted malware was remotely controlled PlugX malware. The malware was generated in the server and collected system information 4 months before. The malware hijacked the update server. The malware checks whether the host is an analysis environment with the tools and only operates. If it is not an analysis environment, when it runs on a PC, it allocates with each function code in the additional memory space to operate organically. The functions include the service and register generation, PC info collection, and CNC server connection. Then, it checks if the first 4 bytes of the specific data included in the memory is XXXX, and if the character string does not exist, it decrypts the data to extract the information. The decrypted data contains the character string in the date, and we presume that the attack generated it for the version measurement of the PlugX malware. The result of the server analysis shows that it was a date close to March 31st, 2017, which was the time the actual malware was installed, and we presume that the attack customized the malware for the attack against Company B. The malware reads GitHub and TechNet pages constructed by the attack and passes the specific data to obtain the CNC server address. It extracts the character string in a normal text using a specific character string. It decodes the extracted character string to attempt to log in the CNC server address. The attacker was able to bypass our blocking of the CNC server since the attacker can change the edition server at any time. This slide shows an update file tampered by a supply chain attack and a normal update file. The attacker installs a malicious linker program in the build server. Then, the developer compiles the normally developed source code using the linker program. After successful compiling, malicious code is inserted in the middle of the program as shown in the figure. The malware can be signed with a certificate since it was compiled and linked by a normal process. Checking of the update server log showed that about 150,000 PCs were downloaded during the past 1 month. The malware connects to the CNC server using a DGA. The URL of the server is created based on the time of execution. Each name consists of 10 to 15 alphabet characters suffixed by .com. The malware generates the character string by collecting information on the infected device, encoding it. Then, it prefixes the character string generated using the infected device information to the domain generated with the DGA. The malware communicates with the attacker in the way shown here and selects the PCs to attack. It requests the URL, which was generated using the device information and previous described DGA from the DNS server. It processes the DNS query in a text method. The attacker decrypts the target infection information to select the next target PCs and transmit the additional data with the DNS response packet. The malware uses additional data information to decrypt the finally executed data. Then, it performs additional malicious action. This attack is possible since the attacker regularly registers the domain generated with the DGA. We call the attack method DNS tunneling, and it enables the attackers to attack only the target PC. Program developing company C was informed of the hack from a customer and notified us. On suspected action of connect to an anomalous URL from the customer's PC using the program occurred. Our confirmation showed that the malware was installed during the update of the program of the company C. The attacker hijacked a test account used by company C and logged into the remote control servers. The attacker could log in to an internal PC from a remote control server and change the proxy settings of the update server to distribute the malware. I will later explain the distribution method. The attacker tampered with a specific command file over Linux server to hide the server hack. As a result, running a command to view the access logs shows the output that excludes the attacker's IP. The server administrator could not find the login by the attacker through the server login time, which led to a late response. We confirm that the attacker also used PlugX as the malware against company C. The attack passes a specific character string to retrieve the CNC server address in the same way as the previously explained PlugX. It then controls the system and hijack information using remote command. Company C also confidently distributed the malware since it was signed with a normal certificate. This screen capture shows that the certificate is expired, but it was valid at the time of analysis. This slide shows how the attacker selects the additional target PCs for the attack. The attacker hacked the update server and changed the proxy path settings of the Nginx used by the servers. The proxy path function enables the attacker to induce a specific IP to connect to the malware distribution site. Checking the firewall log and settings log confirmed that only two customers were induced to connect to the malware distribution site. It was difficult to detect the attack since it distributed the malware only to the specific companies. This slide shows in detail how the attacker hacked the update server of company C and distributed the malware. The customer's IPs in the proxy path connect to the update server. The update server induces the customer's PC to the malware distribution site. Then, the customer's PC is infected by the malware for the first time. The first malware does not do anything to avoid suspicion and we catch the second malware. The attacker finally takes control of the PC with the second installed malware. The attacker attempted to attack the supply chain of company D, which has been infected through company C as introduced in case C. The employee of the call center of company D connects to the update server of company C to update company C's program. The call center employee's PC is infected by the malware since it is the PC of the company targeted by the attacker. The attacker was able lateral movement to the developer PC since it was the intranet of company D which did not have proper access control. The attack logged into the SVN server through a SSH connection and hijacked the source code. Although the attacker attempted to distribute the tampered file using the hijacked source code, we recognized the incident in advance and were able to prevent further damage. The attacker used the same remotely controlled PlugX malware used by the attack against company C. It was notable in that it was the old malware generated in July 2012. The malware reads the specific file and then decrypted and run it. The malware, which was confirmed to be a variant of remotely controlled malware called 9002, executed the remote command after logging into the CNC server. The 9002 malware was first found in Operation Aurora in 2009 and is known to be the malware used by Group APT17. The attacker also modified the command to hide the server intrusion in the case D supply chain attack. It was the same attack method as the case C supply chain attack. We have recently detected an attempt to hack an update server of Company E. The targeted server was a distribution server for the software update file. The malware type and attacker IP confirmed through the server analysis was the same IP used by the attack against Company C and Company D. The attacker logged in with an administrator account, hijacked an advance with a foreign IP. Then, the attacker uploaded the web shell. The attacker obtained the server authority through the uploaded web shell and installed the malware to collect the internal account information and altered the command. We attacked during the penetration process and were able to block it before it attacked the supply chain. This slide shows how an attacker collects the server account information. The attacker modified PAM Unix.so, which was a library file of the PAM module that was the framework used by Linux. This file performs functions like inspecting the validity of the user password and whether to allow service access. The modified PAM Unix.so file operates when a user of Company E connects to the update server. As a result, the IP, ID, and password were recorded and the attacker was able to collect the account. Now, Senior Researcher Kim will take over the presentation and he will explain about association analysis.
We have continuously analyzed supply chain attacks that occur in South Korea. We also analyzed the CKRCERT incident and ASUS incident by acquiring information overseas. As a result, we interestingly found common factors between these and the supply chain attacks in South Korea. I will explain this with the table in the next slide. As this table shows, these different supply chain attacks had two or more common factors. We summarized these attacks in 6 characteristics. Most supply chain attacks distributed the malware by selecting the PCs to eventually perform the attack as secretly as possible. Moreover, they often used PlugX malware and advanced code tampering techniques. There were other minor factors, but I will move on. In conclusion, we presume that the supply chain attack group that attacked Korean companies was the same group that attacked ASUS and CKRCERT, and that each activity domain is very broad. The attacker installed the additional malicious code only in the final targets to minimize the risk of the attack being discovered. The attack used the IP address and MAC address to select target PCs, and we presume that the attacker was aware of the IP address or MAC address of the final target before carrying out the supply chain attack. This slide shows the tampering of a normal file for a supply chain attack. The attacker altered the C runtime code and inserted the shellcode decoding function to avoid the detection of the tampered update file. The attacker directly modified the code in some cases and used a tampered link file in other cases. The tampered CCleaner update file altered the TLS initialization code in the C runtime file. In the ASUS Incident, the CRT exit process code was modified. The attacker changed the tampering method because altering the exit function makes it more difficult to detect the tampering through integrity checking by the antivirus detection system. The attacks are becoming more intelligent and advanced. The infected PCs used the ShadowPad malware to take control of the server and download the final payload. The algorithms to decrypt character string was similar, and we found traces of repeated use. Moreover, we found the same malicious code in the supply chain attack against Company B in South Korea and the CCleaner incident. The attacker used the malware derived from PlugX at the early stage of the supply chain attack. PlugX is known to be the algorithm often used by the BARIUM APT Group in the past. There are many versions of the PlugX malware. We confirmed that attack case C and D used malicious code modified specifically for the attack target. As such, we presume that the attacker had experience using or developing PlugX type malware. To hide the server intrusion, the attacker altered command files in the Linux server. As a result, the command output excludes the attacker IP, and it makes it difficult for server administrators to recognize the intrusion by the attacker. We listed the attacker's IP addresses as part of the server analysis. The analysis confirmed that there were common IPs and the same IP range. The next slides explain the features and strategies of these attacks. I will explain the process of these supply chain attacks with the attack matrix by MITRE. This attack group penetrated the target with a valid account and a remote service, and executed the malware using a service and scheduler. It avoided detection through code signing, obfuscation, and the compile after deliver technique. It encrypted the data and leaked it to the CNC server. It used the DGA and decryption of the specific character string to retrieve the CNC server address. This slide shows 5 features of the attacks. Firstly, the attacks mostly use the PlugX type malware to take control of the server, erase the traces, and reuse the decryption algorithm and other modules if necessary. Second, an examination of the exposed PDB path shows that the malware developer developed the malware against the attack target from the development stage. Third, the attack distributes the first malware to unspecified PCs and then selects the final targets among the infected PCs to execute the final malware. We presume that the purpose of the attack is not monetary gain, but the attainment of internal information of the company. Fourth, the attack finally infects only a few PCs. It enables the attack to perform the mission securely for a long time and makes it difficult for the security experts to perform additional analysis. Finally, the attacker has the expertise of using the malware sign with a valid certificate and avoiding detection by tampering, and performs the advanced attack intelligently. The attackers used two strategies for the supply chain attack: penetration into the development environment and penetration into the update server. Both strategies require advanced techniques and significant time for a successful attack. However, they are the optimal way to distribute a large volume of malware in secret during a short period. The method of distributing malware by penetrating an update server is more likely to be detected compared to penetrating the development environment, since there is a limitation in altering the code. However, the strategy is highly effective for investment. Thus, it is often used to distribute a large volume of malware. From an analyst's viewpoint, both strategies make it difficult for analysis and response, since they use advanced technology. Nevertheless, we need to understand and apply the measures described in the next slides to minimize and prevent the damage from such attacks. As a security manager, you must apply several important security measures to be ready against supply chain attacks. Although companies may establish different policies, they must address the management of the SVN server, the build server, and the update system, since the supply chain attacks basically target these. When you go back to your job after this presentation, you must update the antivirus in the SVN server and the build server, and you must check for alterations of the IP and URL of the update system in the configuration. Then you need to correct inappropriate internal policies as soon as possible. Finally, you need to separate the general network and the development network, and also separate the authentication management system. These measures can help to prevent supply chain attacks. Additionally, you need to establish an incident response system to quickly respond to intrusions. Through this presentation, I have shared what we've found from the supply chain attack against ASUS to supply chain attacks that occurred in South Korea last year. There were enough similarities for us to determine that the attacks were from the same group, and the analysis of the similarities showed what we need to do to prevent the supply chain attacks. You can review the full report at this URL. Please email me if you have further questions, and I will reply as soon as possible. Thanks for your time.